the EU is being militarized at a mad pace, and it's not in the interest of the citizens of Europe. It's very much in the interest of the military-industrial complex, but it has nothing to offer the citizens of Europe who want peace and have no interest in war. In relation to China, they're our biggest trading partner. They're a long piece from Europe. They are not a threat to our security, which the Americans like to tell us they are. The Americans say that China is a threat to their security, to the security of the people of America, the security of the people of Europe. Well, I don't find that to be true. I find China to be a threat to America's financial supremacy and the supremacy of the dollar, which is incredibly important to America, obviously. But the notion that China is a threat to their citizens is nonsense. China hasn't dropped a bomb on anyone in 40 years. They have one military base outside of China in the South China Sea, which happens to be in Djibouti. The Americans have over 750. And China has increased its defense spend. It's still about a third of the American, despite the fact that they have 4 times more people, and that they started from a very low base, given that they hardly had a military 20 years ago. But I think any neutral observer will agree that China's investment in military prowess is very much of a defensive nature, because it is worried about America sometime taking them on in a military way, and that would be a problem for them. But look, you asked me what sort of relationship Europe should have with America and with China. We should have good relations with both. We should be prepared to trade with both as long as it's in our interest. And listen, we haven't got time to get into a lot of the problems around trade anyway. I have serious problems with how a lot of trade has been done. I have serious problems with the neoliberal nature of much of how so many of these countries are run today. And I see big business being prioritized and their interests ahead of the ordinary people in most countries, and that's a problem. But Europe has a primary responsibility to take best care of its own citizens that most need our help, and we shouldn't be going down the militarization path, which we're doing at the moment. We shouldn't be promoting war. I actually think that it'll be a good day if we ever get rid of NATO, which I find problematic. NATO has nothing to offer peace-wise or security-wise. It's a war machine that serves the interest of the military-industrial complex and has always served the interest of U.S. imperialism. I mean, it was formed in 1949, more or less, by the Americans in order to keep the Europeans in check and to make sure they weren't running off doing things that the Americans didn't want them to do, and that they behaved like good boys. Obviously, up until 91, when when the Soviet Union was dissolved, up to that point, they could have argued that, well, really, they were just there to make sure that Europe was protected and whatever. But since then, given that the Soviet Union was gone, the threat from Russia had disappeared at that stage, you would like to think that NATO should have disappeared as well. But now NATO seems to be getting interested in Taiwan, in China, which is a long piece away from the borders of Europe and an awful long distance from the North Atlantic. And it is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which is what NATO stands for. So it's very concerning that they have such ambition at the moment, which isn't helpful. Their role in Afghanistan, their role in Iraq, their role in Libya, their role in Yugoslavia has been a horror scene. And their role now in Ukraine is not helpful. And Stoltenberg, the boss of NATO, admitted one day when I was at committee, I was challenging him on stuff, and he admitted that he boasted about the fact that NATO had been in Ukraine since 2014. Well, what in God's name were NATO doing in Ukraine since 2014? Now, how can that be helpful? it's unfortunate, right? And to go back to your original question, how should we relate with both countries, China and the US? Europe should have an open-minded approach with both. It shouldn't be led by the nose by either of them. It shouldn't be taking orders from either of them. It should trade with them in a manner which best fits with the interests of the people of Europe.
Yeah.